I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
I have
Would
a
you
feel-
do that?
That is not how
Yes or
our...
no?
No, sir, I can't.
Would you give
do
me
that.
1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal system.
Well, I'm gonna have to.
Remember this piece of video? This man's name is Randall Margraves. His 2 girls were victims of Larry Nassar's.
An anguished father heard for the first time exactly how Larry Nassar sexually assaulted his daughters when they were teenagers.
Of course, it was more than Margraves' kids.
What I'm trying to bring to your attention today is something incredibly disturbing and illegal. After telling my entire story of abuse to the FBI in the summer of 2015, not only did the FBI not report my abuse, but when they eventually documented my report 17 months later, they made entirely false claims about what I said.
One of the greatest vaulters ever, Michaela Baroni, is a survivor of Nassar's and called out a cover-up.
I am also a survivor of sexual abuse, and I believe without a doubt that the circumstances that led to my abuse and allowed it to continue are directly the result of the fact that the organizations created by Congress to oversee and protect me as an athlete, USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee failed to do their jobs. I don't want another young gymnast, Olympic athlete, or any individual to experience the horror that I and hundreds of others have endured before, during, and continuing to this day in the wake of the Larry Nassar abuse. To be clear, sorry.
Take your time.
To be clear, I blame Larry Nassar, and I also blame an entire system that enabled and perpetrated his abuse.
Simone Biles, another survivor, spoke in congressional hearings.
I reported my abuse to USA Gymnastics over 6 years ago, and still, my family and I received few answers and have even more questions about how this was allowed to occur and why dozens of other little girls and women at Michigan State had to be abused after I reported. In sacrificing my childhood for the chance to compete for the United States, I am haunted by the fact that even after I reported my abuse, so many women and girls had to suffer at the hands of Larry Nassar. USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the FBI have all betrayed me and those who were abused by Larry Nassar after I reported. The cover-up of my abuse and the FBI's failure to interview me for more than a year after my complaint are well documented in the OIG report.
It was All-American Maggie Nichols as well.
It took over 14 months for the FBI to contact me, despite my many requests to be interviewed by them. The records establish that Steve Penny, FBI agent Jay Abbott, and their subordinates worked to conceal Nassar's crimes.
Ditto with Olympic great Aly Raisman. It is a story of power, corruption, and sports. Let's start with today's news.
This settlement could be the final hurdle for justice for some of the top names in gymnastics, abused by former team doctor Larry Nassar, abuse reported to the FBI and mishandled by the agency for almost a year. This comes after a 2021 Justice Department Inspector General report found the agency failed to respond to the allegations with the utmost seriousness and urgency, and 70 or more young athletes were allegedly sexually abused by Nassar after the first complaint against him was filed with the FBI.
The Department of Justice revealing today that it reached a $139 million settlement with the victims of Nassar to resolve their claims of wrongdoing against the FBI, who failed to investigate allegations of sexual abuse.
The headlines speak volumes to how badly and poorly this case was botched over and over and over again. Lives were ruined for medals. From Politico, the US DOJ announced a $138.7 million settlement with more than 100 people who accused the FBI of grossly mishandling allegations of essay against Nassar in 2015 and 2016, a critical time gap that allowed the sports doctor to continue to prey on his victims before his arrest. The total compensation and payout for these settlements are going to be roughly $1 billion. Nassar, once convicted, was sentenced to life in prison. From Rolling Stone, during his time with USA Gymnastics, Michigan State University, working with local teams, and various high schools, the total number of victims is estimated to be over 300.
USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee knew that I was abused by their official team doctor long before I was ever made aware of their knowledge.
It was because of selfless athletes like Biles, Maroney, Raisman, and others who testified, ringing the alarm on the abuse and how the case was mismanaged over and over again. The FBI director at the time, James Comey. Furthermore, via the Times, the settlement comes 2.5 years after senior FBI officials publicly admitted that agents had failed to take quick action when U.S. national team athletes complained about Nassar to the Bureau's Indianapolis field office in 2015. It is that critical gap in time, 2015 to 2016, to be more specific, July of 2015 to August of 2016, that the abuse was reported, but was allowed to continue because of the lack of action. The Department of Justice's Inspector General's report concluded senior FBI officials in the Indianapolis field office failed to respond to the allegations with the utmost seriousness and urgency that they deserved and required, and the investigation did not proceed until after a September 2016 report by the Indianapolis Star detailed Nassar's abuse. In a write-up for the Times, and let's credit those writers, Juliet McClure and Michael Levinson, this came in July of 2021, it would read as follows. The FBI's officials in the office also made numerous and fundamental errors when they did respond to the allegations and failed to notify state or local authorities of the allegations or take other steps to address the ongoing threat posed by Nassar. That is via the report. W.J. Abbott was called out by these gymnasts in those congressional hearings. J. Abbott is an FBI agent, and he was found to have lied to the Inspector General more than once when asked about the inquiry on Larry Nassar. He would give false statements and make countless errors. And now more gymnasts, unfortunately, are dealing with the consequences of his actions. Haley Strack of the National Review will take it from here. After consulting with attorneys and special agents, the Indianapolis office decided to transfer the case to the Western District of Michigan, where there would likely be federal jurisdiction. That transfer, though, never happened, even though W.J. Abbott, the special agent in charge, would say that it was handled. The LA office began to investigate Nassar in early 2016, but didn't notify Michigan state or local authorities. So with an open FBI investigation, multiple claims of assault against him, and an employer that knew about the allegations, Nassar for months continued to treat patients. It took a complaint filed with the police department at MSU, where Nassar was a doctor, by one of his former patients in 2016 to put the nail in the coffin. Another very unique twist to all of this is the following that I'm about to show you, and it includes that special agent. It also said that Abbott violated FBI policy when he spoke with Steve Penny, then the president and chief executive of USA Gymnastics, about potential job opportunities with the U.S. Olympic Committee, even as the two discussed the allegations against Nassar. Abbott later applied for the job at the USOC, but twice lied to the Inspector General about seeking that job. Abbott was never prosecuted, and he would coincidentally retire in the year 2018.
I'm sorry for what you and your families have been through. I'm sorry that so many different people let you down over and over again. And I'm especially sorry that there were people at the FBI who had their own chance to stop this monster back in 2015 and failed. And that is inexcusable. It never should have happened, and we're doing everything in our power to make sure it never happens again.
Director Christopher Wray admitted fault on behalf of the FBI. The Associated Press would also write the following. Michigan State University, which was also accused of missing chances over many years to stop Nassar, agreed to pay $500 million to more than 300 women and girls who were assaulted. USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee made a $380 million settlement.